Thank you, GMEC, for this wonderful opportunity for all of us to sort of come and share all our learning, and also for designing the way these talks have been sort of curated, very well thought out. And as we all know, our topic that has been sort of gleaned out of for all different days by Dr. Tanu over here, which focuses on storytelling. I'd also like to welcome very warmly my co-panelists on this session, Professor Farkan Kamar. He's a former advisor to the Planning Commission. He's now associated with Jamia. Professor Manisha Pathak Shelat. She's an eminent media educator and a professor at MICA in Ahmedabad, where she's the chair for Center for Development Management and Communications, and Professor Arvind Singhal, who's joining us from the US. He's the Marston Endowed Professor of Communication at the University of Texas at El Paso. So a very, very warm welcome to all our co-panelists. What I would be, the aspect of storytelling that I would be talking about is, of course, to do with my experience in the media, also communication. Can I share my screen? Tanuji, can I share my screen?
Sure, sir, sure.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm essentially talking about today is storytelling in the age of disbelief. Is the screen on full screen, or you can see my other sidebar as well?
We can see the sidebar, sir.
Okay, how do I just enlarge it? Just give me a second, I'm sorry.
Control F5 if you are working on.
Okay. No, control.
Just click on to slideshow.
Yeah.
Okay. So storytelling in the age of disbelief, what we have come to know about communication today is that the attention span, the human attention span, which was very valuable for all kinds of communications, be it the advertisers trying to reach out to their prospective customers, or to media people trying to reach out to their readers. The attention span itself has shrunk over the years, and now it is probably lesser than that of a goldfish, which is in the range of about 8 seconds. So the human attention span has actually shrunk so much that we are even less attentive than goldfishes. And my theory, or my premise over here, is that the first cause of this shrinkage goes back to the time of the invention of the printing press, which was the work of Johannes Gutenberg. And he, in fact, was a businessman. He was a person who was always trying to find new things to sell. He was a seller of artifacts and religious mementos. And then he came upon the wine press, and the wine press actually inspired him to find something that would make or fasten the process, speed up the process of communication, or how books were printed, because he was interested in the calligraphy and drawings and illustrations that went in handwritten books. And so in one sense, the wine press is an analog of the movable press that Gutenberg invented. And in the sense, both presses gave these qualities of longevity and shareability to their original product, which in the wine press's case was grape, and in Gutenberg's case was knowledge. So shareability and longevity were the two things that came out of this invention. Storytelling before this was largely an oral exercise where stories, mostly scriptural in nature, or on the other hand, were courtly because there were court historians writing about the rulers that were in power at that time. So they were told either from memory or read out from scrolls or handwritten books or even leaves and stone tablets. So the stories of this nature essentially had authority and believability because the larger public, the so-called masses, were unlettered and they could read themselves, and the story was being read out to them by people in authority. The stories themselves had that authority and the element of believability for them. After Gutenberg, what happened was the whole process of sharing stories was sort of opened up and democratized for the whole world, and the ease with which stories could travel became much more faster, much more aided by the technology of that time. It was certainly a technology, not in the sense of technology we understand today, but for those times, this was quite revolutionary. In fact, historian Elizabeth Eisenstein, in her 1979 book, calls it the Unacknowledged Revolution. It was a revolution which was silent and in many ways went unnoticed for contemporary historians and historians much later, but it was unacknowledged, and it was revolutionary at the same time. And the extent of the revolution, in fact, went on to the realm of religion, and a very dominant religion of that time, which was Catholicism, because it sort of ignited this fire of people being able to question authority, because the possibility of the technology of bookmaking and printing was made so easily available to everyone that, in fact, many people attribute the reformation of the Catholic Church itself to the printing press, because it made it possible for people like Martin Luther to print and circulate their tracts, which for the first time in the history of the world, actually, or the European-centered world, was possible because they were openly questioning the authority of that time. They were also questioning the authority and believability of the stories that they had been handed down. So within 3 years of Martin Luther's publishing or printing of his 95 Theses, which questioned the buying of indulgences from the clergy, it sold more than 300,000 copies, which was, if we are looking for an equivalence in today's terms, would be a complete and absolute virality, much like the cat videos which go viral in our time. So everyone was curious about what was written in the 95 Theses and what was the premise on which Martin Luther was questioning something that was so well established in the minds of the ordinary public. The scene today is that we have come from those early days of the printing press, or the unacknowledged revolution of the printing press, is that we are exposed to the media constantly, and the storytelling tropes are being used constantly on us by people who are keen to catch our attention, because we are also in what is called the attention economy. So 24/7, we are interacting or being sent out one story after another in some form or another through our phones. If we enter a cab, it is on the screen in the cab, it is on the airplane, it is on highways through electronic boards which are changing, it is in the doctor's waiting room, it is absolutely everywhere we turn our attention to. There is someone trying to grab our attention to a story, which is the scene today. In 2008, actually, when a survey was conducted in the US to find out what was the quantum of information every household was consuming, it was found out that every US household consumes about 3.6 zettabytes of information annually. And if you physically want to look at this information, which is zettabytes, in the range of 3.6 zettabytes, it would amount to about a 7-foot, more taller than an average human being, stack of books covering the entire United States. That was 2008, and today I'm sure that figure would be in the range closer to double digit. So that is the appetite or the storytelling mechanisms both advertisers and people in the media are using to grab our attention. In fact, Marshall McLuhan, who was one of the early theorists on the media, was very, very sort of prescient in a sense, because he coined the term surfing, which referred to a rapid and multi-directional, irregular movement through disparate texts, which is what we are doing all the time. In fact, we have different words for it, scrolling and swiping. We do that all the time. And the present generation, in a way, is hardwired to do that. They are just born with their finger on the screen. So surfing has become a way through which we consume information, we consume stories, and how we make our way through this extremely fast-changing world. As a result of these changes in technology and the way we accept storytelling, the storytelling paradigms have also changed, and we have slowly and gradually, the way stories were being told have also changed. The structure of the story itself has been undergoing reconstructive surgery. And there was a story, a cover story in Wired magazine, which looks at the digital aspect and digital news that is happening in the world. The cover story talked about how tech has, in fact, weaponized a good old storytelling. What this essential premise of the article was that storytelling from time immemorial had this element of strategic virtue, that the story was in fact the carrier of an idea or a moral, and the story was in fact making it more palatable and acceptable for a new idea to make more followers, make an idea more acceptable, which was the basic idea behind stories, why people told stories, because they wanted to send out a message to the world. But because of technology, this strategic virtue of the story had been completely overemphasized and amplified many times over, in a sense that it was totally weaponized, because the way it was being used to send out messages to the world by all sorts of people for all sorts of gains and all sorts of motives. Because of this, the length of stories have also reduced. If someone talked about a mobile film festival, it would have been laughable a few years ago, but now it has become a reality. Films are being shot in that format and using the mobile phone as an instrument or as a device to tell stories. So people have recognized the importance that storytelling does not require so much technology or so much extended equipment to bring out a moving or a story that is palatable to viewers. And this has also happened because attention spans have also been decreasing. Mobile films or short format films have become very important, and people like things that tell the story much faster. News stories, in fact, have also been becoming shorter. The average length of news stories has been progressively declining, and this has actually started happening in the 90s. That is when slowly newspapers were changing into the digital format. Page making, earlier there used to be a job called page making artists or paste up artists, because they were actually pasting the headlines and the text below it on a pasteboard. But because of a computer, the arrival of computers on the scene, the page making was entirely done on the computer. And because it was so easy to sort of shift the design of the page, it was also found that people are spending less and less time on stories. The length of stories also decreased. Now to a time now where we have come, where the headline in fact says it all. The story becomes in a less, almost like a footnote to the headline. This is also
sir, sorry for interrupting, but we'll have to conclude it in a bit.
because we'll be listening to you again at the end of the session when you conclude.
Okay.
But since we
So
have
I'll just quickly run through whatever
Yes,
I
sir.
prepared.
I'm sorry I have to play the butcher role today, but I can't help it. Please conclude, sir.
So as a result, we've also seen the rise of mobile journalism, which is called Mojo, because it sort of shrinks the whole newsroom into the format or the length of a phone, and everything, all the extended equipment that was used earlier is now just available to one person, and one person shoots and uploads the whole story for everyone to see. We also see the rise of digital storytelling courses coming up in universities, where universities are giving more and more sort of space to this new mechanism where storytelling takes on different methods. It's written, it's audio, it's visual, as well as it's using photography to tell a story or move a story forward. And we are teaching this actively to students who are engaged in education. In a scenario like this, where the speed with which technology is empowering young people to share their stories, it becomes very, very important for educators to factor this aspect of speed and technology into the way curriculums are made and courses are structured. Because we also, there was a time when knowledge was supposed to be power, but that is a fast fading paradigm, because stories can get published in minutes and they can go viral in hours. Videos, on the other hand, can do that in mere seconds, which is why stories, in a sense, are losing their authority and their believability, because they're competing alternative facts and realities, which is what we need to factor in while we are in the business of educating young minds and influencing them for the future. Thank you.